and welcome to the first ever Sketchbook Club. It's really exciting. Today we're going to be drawing houses. We've got 4 sheets in the downloadables with a whole array of different types of houses. We've got city scenes and big sky-rise buildings here, and chateaux and cottages and follies. And what we're going to do, using the reference, is draw the houses at the bottom of the page, using a pencil first of all, and then going over it in a fine liner pen. And then we're going to paint the background using acrylic paints, and then a finishing touch of some clouds from an old book. So what you'll need is a pencil. I always only use an HB, a rubber and 2 brush sizes. I've got a size 6 and a size 2, but a small and a larger one basically. And then you'll also need the fine liner. I use a 0.4, but as long as it's fibre tip and not too kind of bulky in the nib, it's perfect. You'll also need scissors and glue and an old book. So the older the better, really. I sort of go to Oxfam and sort of bulk buy them because I use them a lot in sort of collage and things. But you might have one on your bookshelf. And you'll also need blue, white and yellow acrylic paints. And the reason we use acrylic paints is because they are so lovely to use as a background because they're really matte. It's almost like it's been printed and you don't see any brush strokes, and it's a really wonderful sort of background paint to use, and it's got a lovely sort of matte sort of sheen to it. So the first thing you're going to do, taking quite a sharp pencil, start planning out the page. So think about the composition. So you might want to kind of make it all one height, like this sketchbook, or similarly how I've done on this holiday diary when I went to Amsterdam, and this is where the idea came from. This was drawn literally from a postcard, and I drew a whole load of Amsterdam houses. Some I mixed and matched, so it might be quite nice to kind of add the kind of roof of this one to this one, or add the balcony of this house to that house. So kind of make it your own and mix and match the references. Also sort of think about the space. It's lovely to have that slightly linear feel with the houses, but also you might want to add a bit of height as well. This sketchbook's brilliant. It's like a whole sort of city in one page. They've added this tower here, and it's like a sort of amazing world. They've got Paris and London, and they've got the Staten Island ferry here, so a bit of New York. It's this wonderful city. Whereas this person has gone quite traditional. There's a castle and a sort of hut, but lovely detail here with street lights and chimneys. Really have fun, really experiment, and feel free to invent your own buildings. I did this with some school children, and they made some incredible, crazy buildings that they had invented, sort of made up roller coasters and sky rises. So I'm going to just start with using this image here. Don't worry too much about the detail at the moment because you're just doing it in pencil. And I'm just going to sort of roughly draw it out. You don't want to spend too much time on the pencil because all the detail is going to be on when you come to using your pen, and just sort of map out your whole drawing. Keep going until you've covered the whole of your sort of base of the double page spread. When you've kind of roughed it out in pencil, don't worry too much because you're going to go over it in pen anyway, so just sort of roughly in pencil. Then take your fine liner, go back to your reference and start to add some detail. It really is the detail that makes this quite special. So like this person has drawn in every single tile and every brick on the chimney. So using your fine liner pen, now you can add the detail. You'll see my roof is stripy, but I'm going to use this roof. It'll take quite a long time. Just add and have some fun, and it's almost like a doodle. Just relax and just get into it, and just keep adding the little windows and the doors, and you know, if you fancy putting a little chimney on or even a little bird on the roof, have some fun just using your fine liner. When you're happy with the whole spread of buildings, you should end up now with the whole of your houses all completed and just white above it. Just rub out the pencil so you don't see it, that's fine, just get rid of the pencil. And you'll be left with this very kind of clean, lovely black and white drawing of all the buildings that you've chosen. So the next thing to do is to mix your paint. So you've got your 3 colours. What you're going to do is add a bit of yellow, just a tiny little bit. It kind of stops it looking like a kind of children's blue. It's interesting because I very rarely use the colour straight out of the tube, and it's quite a hard habit to break, but if you kind of give yourself a sort of rule of not using them out of the tube and kind of inventing your own colours, your sketchbook will sort of take on a slightly more sophisticated kind of look, really. And then adding lots of white, just starting to look really nice. It's a bit like adding sort of seasoning to a soup or something, a little bit, taste it, a little bit, taste it. So you're going to add until you're sort of happy with the colour. So you've got a lovely colour there. Take your sort of thinner brush and start to go over in the background, just making sure that you don't lose any of that lovely detail that you've drawn on with your black pen. And if you're going to go over the edge, a good idea is to have a piece of paper behind, so when you're going over the edge, it doesn't matter whether you're kind of just going straight onto the paper behind. It just means that you know you're not going to end up with a sort of little white border, and you're going to cover that whole base with this lovely colour. So if there is something like a sort of aerial, don't worry if there's a little bit of white surrounding the black, because that just adds, again, it just adds to the charm. It makes it look much more effective, that you can see the detail, rather than trying to kind of be too accurately close to it. Don't worry too much. It's all about the sort of charm, and the beauty is that it's yours. It's better that way than losing the drawing that you've done and losing that lovely detail. So this might take some time, but you're going to go over the whole of the rooftops, if you like, of all the houses with your fine brush, and just making sure that you've got all that lovely detail that you've put in. And when you've got the whole row with just the tops painted over, you bring back your larger brush and get lots of paint on the brush. You're going to use much bigger strokes, and using this method again of putting it behind, just make sure the whole page is covered. Make sure you've got enough paint, because you need to have that colour consistent the whole spread, and paint the whole of the back using nice big strokes. That's why a 6 is quite good, because it's quite nice, and it's got, when it splays out, it covers a nice big area. But feel free to use a bigger brush if you've got one. So once the whole of that is painted, sit back, have a cup of tea, wait for it to dry, and then when it's all dry, you're then going to add the finishing touches. We're going to cut out some of these old books to make some little clouds. It's up to you how busy you want to make it. And this lady's made a few little birds out of the book as well, and used one of the illustrations. Or you might want to keep it really simple. This is a lovely graphic spread, and she's just used one with words and one without, and that's really effective too. So take a page of your old book. It feels really wrong tearing up books, doesn't it? But you know, it's fine. Choose a really boring book so you're not upset that you're tearing it up. And you don't have to have clouds. I mean, this person's got an aeroplane. And in fact, a nice thing to do is if you tear little tiny bits, and just, so not cutting if it's chimney smoke, it does make a lovely little kind of tuft of smoke if you have got any chimneys. So with the clouds, the trick is, so if that's the side that you like, that's the side, because actually that side's got a drawing on it. On the other side, I'm going to draw a cloud shape on. Taking your scissors, you're going to cut out the cloud shape. Now it seems silly because a cloud is a cloud, but actually it's really useful having that guide there. And of course, there's no need to rub out the pencil, because we're going to use the other side. Cut out a few first and pop them around your spread just to kind of play around. You might think, oh, there's a bit of a gap there, I might put a little one in there. So just have a play. So you might need about sort of 5 or 6 of these little clouds, dot them around, and then when you're happy with them, just glue them on. So if you've got quite an old book like this is, the paper can be a bit fragile, so careful not to tear it and just tap the top instead of kind of pushing it across, because the glue's quite strong and it might tear. And so you're then going to stick on the clouds onto that blue, or the chimney smoke or the aeroplanes or whatever. Once you've finished, you'll end up with this beautiful image. There's a lovely mix of mediums. So you've got your drawing with your pen, this lovely flat blue, really satisfying colour, and then this lovely bit of collage. So if you want to kind of share that and share ideas and show the world, just use the hashtag Sketchbook Club houses, and then I can see them and everyone else can see them, and yeah, show off what you've done and have some fun.